Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the first session for Silicon Valley Quantum Computing Group. I am Taposh Roy. I'm the host for this meetup. Today's talk is on a virtual fireside chat on the future of quantum computing in healthcare with Nardo from Qubit Ventures. So this is about me. My name is Taposh Roy. I am a director of innovation at Kaiser Permanente. My work focuses mainly on digital twins these days with both machine learning and simulation and optimization as well. Prior to that, I have been with a variety of startups and also consulting. I'm the author of the book, Medical Image Processing with Deep Learning. And being in healthcare for so long, my interest is quantum computing in healthcare. So the goal for today's session is threefold, actually. First is to get a sense of the current state of quantum computing with Nardo, get his perspective on what investors are thinking and how healthcare leaders should approach quantum computing. With that, I'd like to introduce Nardo. Nardo is a veteran in healthcare. He spent about 25 years in managing different healthcare problems and solving for them. He is a strategic thought leader. He's an investor in quantum computing areas as well. Nardo and I are both very, very passionate about utilizing quantum computing in healthcare. With that, I'd like to pass on to Nardo and ask him to start his talk. Before I go there, a high-level agenda, right? So we're going to take about 30 minutes, and Nardo is going to talk about healthcare and quantum computing. After that, we'll have a fireside chat with Nardo. Well, I'll ask him some pointed questions on healthcare, and then I'll open up from the audience for 1 or 2 questions in healthcare. Okay. Thank you. So with that, Nardo, I'm going to pass it on to you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Taposh. Thank you for that kind introduction. And I am so glad to be here and in front of a lot of these folks who's interested in learning more about quantum in healthcare. So I'll just go ahead and start sharing my screen here. Just give me a moment. Okay, can you see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me start. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do something. Just let me do that again. Okay. All right, so I'll be talking about quantum in healthcare, especially quantum computing, not quantum technologies in healthcare. So as a first introduction here, Qubit Ventures is a sector-agnostic pre-seed seed venture fund in California, and we invest in quantum technology companies solving complex problems. As you know, healthcare is very complex, so that's why we are passionate about it. So this is my background. I'm a computer science scientist, 25 plus years in healthcare information technology, exited 2 companies as a technology entrepreneur, and now I am a managing partner of Qubit Ventures. Some of the roles that I had in my prior life is the director of KP Innovation in Kaiser, chief product officer, chief technology officer for multiple startups, and CEO of a technology incubator and consulting firm. So let me get into more of what healthcare does. So healthcare impacts everybody, right? So, but a lot of people don't know what healthcare really does. So if you take a look at what your clinicians do, I'm going to walk you through that, right? So think about your particular doctor. When you go into your doctor's office, what do? Right? So they observe, they analyze you, they're trying to detect what's wrong with you. They may do some imaging, right? So get an X-ray, MRI, or whatever. and they're going to figure out how to diagnose you. And then they're also going to figure out, okay, well, in order for me to diagnose you, let me model and simulate things as well. So as part of my analysis. And then they're going to go through a treatment plan, treat you, and then try and figure out how to prevent your diseases and conditions, and then they're going to monitor you. So those are pretty much the life cycle of what a clinician does, and they need a lot of help in this space. And again, these are just the clinical activities, and healthcare is not just about clinical. There's also the financial aspect of healthcare and the administrative aspect of healthcare. So financial is more like the financial management. It is still run as a business, right? And the administrative are all of the operational stuff that happens within healthcare. Things like supply chain, logistics, billing, collections, and all those things. All those things require a lot of help. If you're not too familiar with the healthcare environment, I want to give you kind of like just an overview of what that looks like. So as if you worked in a healthcare environment. So in hospitals and clinics and healthcare systems, including payers and stuff like that, we have lots of data. We have lots of systems and data. We do individual versus population care, right? So we're still working on trying to get you into a personalized type approach of care. We look at it from a preventive versus catastrophic. And it's not just clinical, as I mentioned. We do a lot of workflow and process challenges. We have a lot of equipment and devices, misdiagnosis, information overload. We have many standards. We have so many fragmented systems. We are costly. We're burdened by legacy systems, so on and so forth. So you can see it's a very difficult environment to work in. The other thing that you also need to know about, 30% of the world's data volume is now being generated by the healthcare industry. Okay, so by 2025, it'll be up to 36%. So more than a third of the world's data is healthcare data. So think about that, right? So we have a massive amount of data that we need to understand and gain insights from, and we need the kind of processing capability and insights technology that will help us improve this industry. A few more healthcare statistics. So you could see how the massive amount of data is generated. We have 310 million surgeries happening each year. This is just the US, by the way. 2 million different kinds of medical devices. And I'm not even talking about the wearable devices here. 270 million imaging procedures per year, 154 million wearable devices shipped in Q4 2020. It's probably even more so in 2022. 7 billion clinical lab tests done each year. And this is just all clinical related stuff. And we have more data than just that. So I think probably a lot of people here are familiar with the big data. So the 5 V's of big data is, they call it volume, value, variety, velocity, and veracity. Healthcare data, this is what the healthcare data features are. It needs to be confidential. It's very time-oriented. It's longitudinal, meaning, you need to look at it from beginning to end in order to make sense. We both support structured and unstructured, meaning we have an electronic medical record, and we have imaging, we have voice information, we have information stored in waveforms, and so on and so forth. It is definitely very complex, and of course, it is important. In many surveys done, sometimes medical data is even more important than financial data. We have many different data types. We have video data. We have paper-based data. We still, believe it or not, that we're not fully transformed from an electronic perspective. We have X-ray data, MRI. We have genomics data. We have voice data. We have data coming from many different systems, such as an EMR, care management system, disease management system, population care system, business analytics. We have device data. And of course, these are, and also user and system generated data to account for. So what do we need? We need solutions that are innovative and in a new category that we've never seen before. We'd love to have solutions that are non-invasive and less invasive, that can lead to faster and earlier diagnosis. We need better image resolution. We need better sensors. We need solutions that can handle complexity and large amount of data, so on and so forth. If you take a look at the funding for healthcare innovation year over year, Q3 2022 report from Startup Health, we're still at a 20 billion type funding. It's definitely gone down just because of the market downturn, but it's still quite large. And the reason I'm saying this is a lot of quantum computing startups, especially quantum technology startups, are only looking at deep tech VCs, where they could actually look at healthcare funding and healthcare VCs as a source of potential money. So where does quantum technologies apply in healthcare? One area is post-quantum cryptography, so securing our healthcare networks and data. And this is probably not a surprise to you, but healthcare is the industry with the biggest number of data breach. And it's still, so far, this is not one of those things that we want to be number one at. We need solutions in quantum that can help improve the biomedical image quality and classification. So anything that has to do with AI in this space would be badly needed. We need diagnostic assistance. So think of like your chat GPT for healthcare, right? So we need that level of smartness inside of a healthcare system to support the doctors, because the doctors are information overloaded. Precision medicine. Right now, when you are being taken care of, it's not really personalized, right? So it's based on a certain population. So for example, if you are a diabetic with high blood pressure and you're at a certain age of 40 to 55 years old, you're lumped into that particular category as a population, and they have standard treatments based on that. So it's not precision medicine, or it's not personalized medicine. One example I could talk to you about is Anthem. Anthem has already been working with IBM Q Network on looking at quantum computing to develop a more accurate and personalized treatment options for prediction of health outcomes. So this is getting into that precision medicine, personalized medicine aspect of it. And they've been working on it for 5 years and still working on it. And so you know, this is a very hard problem to tackle. Pricing optimization. So if you've ever worked with healthcare and payers and insurance companies, we want to make sure that the pricing of the plans that you're buying are all optimized for the needs that you have. So this is a price optimization in pricing is a very hard problem to solve. In silico clinical trials. So really what this means is, instead of going to human trials right away, we'll go into what we call a digital twin perspective. I think in the chat, somebody had asked about the question, how do you use quantum computing in healthcare, specifically in digital twin? This is a very good example of how that's done. Because in silico clinical trials, you have to create a digital representation of human data in order for you to apply whatever clinical trials that you're trying to do, whether it's related to pharma, drug development, drug discovery, so on and so forth. I wanted to show you this website. Basically, this website is just a website if you're interested in getting into healthcare and how to do personalized data, personalized computing, personalized medicine, precision medicine. There's this website that contains physiological data, human physiological data that you can combine with your EMR. So I just wanted to point that out just in case people are interested in getting into this space. A few more examples here: rapid drug design. So here's a company. I was in JPM just this week, and I spoke to the CEO in terms of what they're doing here. They're doing so much exciting stuff in the areas of cancer treatment, COVID, and also aging and longevity. So just because of this technology, they can bring down the research as to molecule candidates from 11 to 12 years down to 3 to 4 months. Humor examples: DNA sequencing and analysis, predictive analytics, clinical decision support, and care and service automation. So I want to play this video to you. So a big part of my background is AI. I've done 3 intelligent virtual avatar products, medical devices, and medical imaging type solutions. And this is one I wanted to show you in terms of what a virtual nurse could look like. Imagine if this was ChatGPT enabled, right? And ChatGPT is made faster and better using quantum machine learning. Let me just play this.
You had 5 asthma attacks last week, David. What's going on?
Not feeling well. I got a cold starting. Had to go to Barstow twice for work.
Barstow's nice and dry. What's your asthma keeping you from doing?
Yeah, well, normal life for starters. Like walk upstairs, play with the kids, go see a movie.
Okay, well, here's some weather for you, and I can't say it's nice out. Your neighborhood AQI is 160, humidity's down, and particulate matter's up, so you'll have a 65% increased risk of an attack today. You got some popcorn in the house?
Sure, I get it. Not going out today.
Right, and keep your Advair inhaler nearby.
Okay, every 2 hours I take 1 shot, right?
That's it. You want me to remind you when you need to take it?
Send me an SMS.
Okay, talk with you soon.
All right. So imagine if you have, each one of us have an assistant and a companion specific to assisting us specific to our own condition. So that can be enabled by quantum computing, quantum technologies, and the use of AI.
You had 5 asthma attacks last.
Okay. And then there's a new growing field. It's still very nascent. It's called quantum biology. So basically, humans are quantum beings, and quantum biology is pretty much saying there are quantum phenomena happening within our bodies, right? And how we absorb light, how we turn light in, which is an energy, how we turn food into energy. There are a lot of quantum phenomena happening in our bodies. There's a new field of quantum biology that is looking at this phenomena to see if it's something that we could use for healthcare. So a good example of this is some of the studies I've seen in this area includes things like how can we use particular cells as a quantum sensor instead of a actual electronic sensor. It's a very exciting area, and some universities are already working on it. The one that I know that's in a little bit of a forefront is UCLA, and UC Berkeley, and I am looking forward to see how this one develops over time. And then I want to move on to a category of quantum technologies that I think is exciting for healthcare. It's called quantum sensing. So this is really using quantum systems for high precision measurements of physical quantities. Here are different types of quantum sensors that could be applied out there. One is bioimaging, looking into neural sensing and heart imaging. So it's quantum sensing applies to that. There's a startup out of Colorado that I'm looking at that has a brain scan that contains a magnetometer that is 1,000 times more sensitive than the current sensors that we have. We could use it for spectroscopy, imaging of molecular structures such as proteins, looking at it from a communication standpoint, navigation. So imagine if you can have navigation without necessarily needing GPS satellites. With quantum sensing, that is possible. We could look at it from an environmental monitoring perspective, right? So for example, if in the healthcare setting, we monitor the hospitals for a lot of dangerous hazardous material, you could use quantum sensing from that perspective. infrastructure monitoring, geographical surveying, and fundamental science in itself, and looking at how biology works and how quantum processes inside of a human being could be sensed. These quantum sensors can measure rotation, electrical field information, magnetic field, temperature, pressure, and acceleration. So this is not, the typical stuff that you have now. These are like 1,000 times more sensitive, and that's based on nascent technology that we have. So imagine, the amount of data being generated out of that. Imagine the level of capability that you gain out of that, and how that could be applied from a healthcare and clinical care perspective. And just to show you how exciting the quantum sensor market really looks like, the global sensor market is at 167 billion in 2019, projected to be 346 billion by 2028. So I'm looking at it from a perspective of current sensors. The question here is, can all sensors become a quantum sensor? Then if that's the case, then this is the total addressable market. On the quantum specific quantum sensor side of things, currently we are only at 440 million in 2020 and 702 million by 2026. At the very least, it is a very exciting area to get into. So I wanted to also share, I get this question a lot. So where do you use quantum sensing? What kind of application, what kind of use cases are applicable? So the brain scan, which is that magnetoencephalography use case I mentioned earlier, that's one way. Disease detection, medical imaging, radiation detection, DNA sequencing, precision measurements, surgical planning, medical devices and wearables, so on and so forth. Some of the more exciting areas that we currently can't do right now are in the area of what we call particle movement tracking. So imagine if you could track a particular drug molecule going across your body and see how it's being digested, see how it's working. That's the kind of level of sensitivity these kind of quantum sensors can have. Although, healthcare is definitely for the brave. We have a lot of challenges, and here are some of them. FDA compliance and approval, and you know how hard it is to get into the FDA. So there's a term that we use called FDA graveyard. There's a reason for that. Not many pass the FDA compliance test, but if you do pass that, definitely you would become a really good startup there. Industry adoption, system transition. So for example, well, how do you implement and get your technology adopted from a people, process, systems, technology, and services point of view? It's hard to get healthcare to change, as you probably all know. We need new clinical and care protocols and guidelines. If, for example, if you have now a very interesting sensitive sensors doing capabilities that you've never seen, well, how are you going to use it for clinical care? So we need new guidelines and protocols to be delivered for that. And a few more here, patient and device safety, clinical care standards needs to be upgraded. Also what we call translational medicine, right? We're going to see data that we've never seen before. I think we call this dark data. And how do we figure out what that data is used for? I mean, keep in mind that we are, even with our existing data that we have right now, we have so much of it, we can't even figure out the use of our existing data in many cases. And then, of course, the typical stuff you have in HIPAA compliance for privacy and confidentiality. And then not only that, once quantum computers are such powerful systems that you need infrastructure, data management, and new analytical tools as well. All right, so quantum technologies and computing will transform healthcare on a level we have never seen before. Thank you. So here's my contact information, just in case you guys are interested in getting a hold of me directly.
Nardo, thank you. This was awesome, good 25-30 minutes spent with you. Very inspiring. Really appreciate to get your perspective on this.
Oh,
I
you're
think we'll
welcome.
move to the second part of the agenda. And this is the part where I'm going to ask you some questions. And we both have been in healthcare, and we know the challenges and the opportunities, actually. And then we'll open up for 2 or 3 questions from the audience as well. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So ready for the first one?
Yep. Go for
Okay.
it.
Okay. How do you explain the quantum opportunity to the healthcare leaders who are new to the technology, right? That's like the first basic question that we all face.
Yeah, I think with executives, the thing you need to do with them is not blind them with the shiny toy of the technology. You have to tell them, what they care about, right? So for many parts, they don't really care about the technology, right? Per se. What they care about is like, okay, well, how will this technology help with care quality? How will this technology help with cutting down cost? And how will this technology help with improving the patient and provider experience, right? And then you tell them, okay, well, what's the difference? Because they're going to say, well, what's the difference with this technology versus the other technology? So you tell them what the differences are, and then they're going to say, well, whoa, that difference, for example, if I can compute let's say a new kind of personalized regimen for your medication in sub-seconds, so you can have personalized medicine in sub-seconds, as opposed to taking, not even really addressing that, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, new possibilities would come up, right?
Right.
So you have to address the difference. You also have to address a lot of what I say, new applications, new kind of data that they're going to get, and new scenarios that they're going to have to care about. So to me, that's how you explain it. You could give them basic definitions of what quantum is and stuff like that. But the moment you start getting into quantum entanglement, superposition, quantum tunneling, they're totally lost. You lost them. So you
Yep.
explain
No.
it in benefits.
Yep, I get it. I mean, so I get your point. So focusing on, in our case, quadruple aim, right, which is our healthcare goal, basically. If we can focus on there, show them the benefits. No, this is perfect. Thank you. I bet ChatGPT would answer the same way.
Well, maybe I did run it through ChatGPT. Who knows?
Yep, exactly. The second question is, now we talked about the hospital leaders right now. I'm going to talk about the CIOs, right? Or the executive technology team in these hospitals, right? How do we guide them, or we inform them to prepare for opportunities in quantum computing?
Yeah, so to me, the best way to do it is really start getting into it, right? So, sometimes healthcare, we get into this space of what we call analysis paralysis, right? Or even before that, sometimes we get into a point where we don't even know how to start, right? So the first way to do it is actually the best way to do it is actually start, right? And say, let me work with somebody who has a solution in quantum, whether it's hybrid, it's quantum inspired, and they have a healthcare solution related to that. And let me do a proof of concept, so they could start learning, many different things, right? So they could learn about the benefits of what quantum technologies and quantum systems do. They could learn about the deficit of the kind of people and talent that they need in order for them to grow the workforce. They could figure out, okay, well, if this is a better tool, what happens to our clinical care guidelines? We could do things better. We could do things faster. What can we do with that? And then the other part to it is, now they're going to also have to prepare from a infrastructure perspective, right? So, for example, do we need to increase storage because these kind of technology is generating much more data? Do we need to, look at it from a perspective of how fast our data transfers are and things like so, without going through a proof of concept, whether it's a quantum sensor you're working with, whether it's a quantum machine learning hybrid with classical AI for medical imaging that you're working with, for example, like a quantum CNN type scenario, you just have to basically try it. So you could see all of the different angles from a people, process, technology, data, systems, and services that you need to care about.
Perfect, perfect. No, thank you, thank you, thank you. The next question is something that you actually touched upon a little bit in your talk, but I just want to add it because it's quite a question that people are thinking about it. So this is related to personalized medicine, and we saw the video that you showcased to us. So what does quantum computing mean to personalized medicine? And yeah, that's the first part of the question. The second part is and this maybe I'll ask a follow-up question later on, but let's focus on quantum computing. What does it mean for personalized medicine in terms of access and affordability?
Okay, sure. So whenever I talk about quantum, I want to make sure I talk about it in a more broader perspective, right? So the broader perspective of quantum technologies. Quantum computing is one area, right? So computing, which is where you have a quantum computer that you could use to solve complex issues and problems and stuff like that. Within the quantum technologies field, we also have what we call quantum sensing, quantum communications as well. And all of that will also feed into what we call personalized medicine. Because, for example, if you have a better sensor, then that means you could definitely highly personalize.
Yep.
If your communications are quantum secure, then you could pretty much talk to anyone without any fear about getting hacked, right? If you have a quantum computer that can process complex data sets and complex topologies of data sets and different types of data in sub-seconds, then you could definitely create that personalization, right? The issue that we have is because the number of parameters to personalize something is so many that we need the level of capability of quantum that can lessen the number of steps in order to compute that, right? So that's really what it means. It can give us that's one level, right? So looking at it from a level of what we currently have from the data sets that we have, creating a digital twin related to that, so you could create precision medicine. The other aspect are the quantum sensors, right? So if you have a sensor that can track, let's say that brain scan company that can track one neuronal spark in your brain and that can go across the different areas of your brain and regions, so you could diagnose Parkinson's disease or dementia or Alzheimer's and stuff like that in a different way, then that's another level, right? The other one is in precision drugs, right? So precision care, precision drugs, and many different things.
Yep. No, this is great. Thank you. So let's focus something on the tech side, right? So I know there are a lot of tech companies starting up in the healthcare space, and with the quantum computing, that's going to take a leap now. So what do you think that the tech companies know about working with healthcare organizations? Now, this is what should they know, basically?
Yeah, I think healthcare is a very complex regulatory and compliance type of an industry. So don't go as a tech person, as a tech company, don't go in there thinking that the tech is everything, right? It's really not that. So in any startups or any companies and any solution that I look at, I look at the people that are actually building the solution, and it's really a partnership between the people that are the scientists in the quantum field, the engineers in quantum, and also the actual people who's going to use the technology. Because you keep in mind, healthcare is not going to use this technology if it's not solving a problem, right? If it's not hitting of the quadruple aim that we're looking at from a healthcare perspective, right? Care quality, cost, experience, and so on and so forth. We're not going to use it because, as you all know, Taposh, right? It's hard to displace an existing system inside of a, inside of a healthcare system. So if you want to displace something, you have to make sure that it is way better than the incumbent. In order for healthcare to adopt it, right? So without that partnership, close partnership, and really honing in on the solving the actual problem and not the symptom, it's hard for technology companies to just go in there.
Yep. I'm going to go on a slightly more philosophical side of things, and this is more on the ethical side of things, right? So what are the ethical considerations for healthcare and tech leaders? What should they consider? Especially when quantum computing and the benefits might impact healthcare.
Yeah, so quantum and AI are very tied together, right? So there's a lot of ethical stuff happening in the AI space that would apply to that. The only difference is quantum is here to accelerate AI, right? So now think of the scenario of when you accelerate something like that, then all of a sudden, you have capabilities that are here sooner than later, right? So there's a lot of ethical implication there. The other, it's not just ethics. There's also a lot of, we have a lot of policies to be made here, right? So things like this technology could be used to crack the RSA, right? Our current encryption. And with that, healthcare, we need to protect our data. There's a lot of issues related to that. So the healthcare industry needs to get ready to be post-quantum secure, or use QKD or whatever mechanism. You already have systems like that out there that's providing that, right? So a good company that I remember are like Q-Centroid, Q-Secure. I think anything with a Q is probably a quantum company there, right? So you have things like that. And then things like, okay, well, if I can, so think about like anything that has to do with genomics engineering, right? So now I can start doing, genetic engineering of new kinds of bacteria, new kinds of virus. That gets us into, really, really great territory when it comes to ethics. And there's not enough people that's really looking at it from a critical point of view.
Yeah, no, being in healthcare, I can totally align to it. I mean, the governance aspects of this, especially all ethics, bias detection, as well as, I mean, in my mind, all models should be governed. There should be some idea as to where there is drift in the model, both like a regular data drift as well as a concept drift, or a new concept comes up in the model itself in the outcomes. So
yeah, actually, that's a great point to push, right? So I think the governance aspect is one, right? So think of well, you need it now even without the quantum, right? So that's with the quantum you need it more so. So I think it's not just model governance, decision, right? So how the decision is being governed, is it right? We're going to come across scenarios where even our existing knowledge is limited because there's a pattern determined by a quantum and AI system that we totally don't know about, right? So that the things like that needs to, we need better tools, we need better governance tool, explainable tools, and stuff like that.
no, that's perfect. I mean, yeah, I was thinking about model governance, but decision governance is equal. Actually, it's more important, because the way you make decisions, and if you realize the pattern and if you realize the outcome, because typically people don't go back to see the decisions. If we can govern that and we can change that, we may be able to do better, at least the smaller tactical decisions that has been made in healthcare.
Right.
And yeah.
And then the last one I would say would be make sure that there's always a human in the loop.
Oh, yeah. Especially in healthcare, and being in healthcare for good 9-10 years now, I totally align to it, human in the loop. And I think that's some of the things that even the tech companies should think about. We tend to automate everything, over-automate at times, over-engineer at times. But especially in healthcare, it should be handled with care. So the next two part is, first, I'm going to talk about some investor related questions, and then I will open it up for our participants here to ask questions, and we'll take it from there. What I will do is, We'll glance through the questions and we'll request one of them to come on camera and ask that question, and
Okay.
then take it from there. So I'll start with investors' questions first. So these are the questions for you as an investor in this area. So how do investors elevate investment opportunities for quantum computing in healthcare? How do they do that? How do they elevate? How do you elevate?
Yeah. So to me, my thesis is related towards quantum technologies, right? So I want to make sure I make that distinction, because quantum computers, it's an implementation of the technology. So I look at it from a broad perspective. So the stuff that I'm interested in are quantum applications, right? So things that are applications that are in the quantum AI space, applications in optimization, simulation, post-quantum cryptography. I'm interested in those. I'm also interested in what we call system software, right? So things like if you have a new kind of programming tool specific to quantum, if you have a tool that can develop quantum gates on a no-code perspective,
Yep.
That'll be interesting. If you have a operating systems, right? That makes things better. If you have a new kind of quantum database that stores quantum data in memory, that is interesting. So I look at that class as well. And then what we call quantum devices and components. So I call them picks and shovels, right? So if you take a look at the PC industry before the PC came about, all of these different electronics and components and chipsets and all that stuff needs to get developed. So I look at those too. So I invest in those. And then the last class is what I call transitional or hybrid technologies. So meaning in the future world, we're going to be using we're not going to be using quantum as pure quantum, right? Computing only. We're going to be in a hybrid situation. We're going to be using CPUs, GPUs, QPUs all together. So anything that helps the connectivity, the integration, the harmonization, the interconnects of all the different kind of computing resources, I would invest in those as well. So I look at it from that broad scope. And to me, it's always interesting that I look at it from a product market fit, right? Or problem to solution fit. I want to make sure it's really solving something, because if it's not really solving something, it's and sometimes I have some of those, right? Mainly because of it's solving not a healthcare issue, but it's solving a particular technology or barrier that's within quantum computing itself, right? So for example, error correction software. So stuff like that.
No, that's perfect. And I see a lot of people working on quantum error correction, and it's right timely because we are in the NISC area and we want to get better and better in that. Next question is, any lessons that we have to learn from the first wave of digital transformation in healthcare, as that can be applied to quantum computing now?
Yeah, I think so here's one observation. I've been in the AI space for a while as well, and the whole AI movement, I would say, it took us maybe between 10 and 15 years to actually get it to this point, right? So now we have ChatGPT, which is really, really exciting. So my observation in the quantum industry, it's moving even faster than just the AI industry. So that means, right, there's definitely a lot of money being put into it. There's a lot of interesting stuff it can do, but a word of caution, right? So the word of caution here is, there's certainly a lot of weird things in quantum that we don't understand still. There's a lot of researchy related stuff. So there's a lot of things like error correction. We have very noisy quantum computers right now. We have, our qubits are not coherent and stuff like that. So there are a lot of problems to be solved, but we're slowly solving them. I tell you, what I'm seeing, I'm not just seeing the US deal with this. So many different countries. This is a global innovation happening all at once, very similar to AI. However, quantum is even above AI at this point, right? So so to me, it's like it's exciting because quantum applies to I would say most industries and also most technologies.
Got it. Got it. Um, this is the last question, and then I'll open it up for participants to ask questions. And so this is question about opportunities from the healthcare leader standpoint, being paying attention to. So tell us a little bit more from an investor perspective now.
So the question is the opportunities from an investor perspective. What I like.
What healthcare? How do you see healthcare as an investment from the quantum computing standpoint?
So I think healthcare is definitely going to be a big industry in this one, right? So I'm really bullish on it. So typically when you look at quantum, when if you do your own basic research, you're going to see, a lot of people are using it for finance. A lot of people are using it for pharma. A lot of people are using it for looking at, energy and things like that, right? Healthcare, because of its ties to, keep in mind when I say healthcare, you have to look at it from clinical, financial, and administrative perspective, right? So anything happening in the finance could be cross-pollinated into healthcare. Anything happening in the pharma space could be cross-pollinated into healthcare. So healthcare is definitely the next one. In the Q2B conference last December, I brought in a lot of innovators, right? So Siemens, Mayo Clinic are now starting to look into healthcare in itself. What I'm interested in healthcare, I'm interested in hybrid computing, that solutions within the healthcare field that deals with classical AI and quantum machine learning. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in quantum inspired, meaning you can run a quantum machine learning algorithm inside of a classical software, physics-based software environment. So I'm interested in those. So anything that kind of steps the adoption forward, right? Another one that I'm interested in, which is definitely a much more near-term technology, is quantum sensing. So these new level of sensors are really, really interesting. So I'm very bullish on the quantum sensing aspect of it. I think there was a question on chat related to, the timeline aspect. So the short-term timeline would be that healthcare should be looking at quantum sensors, quantum communications, that space, and anything related to cybersecurity, post-quantum cryptography would be a good one as well.
Yeah, so I think Min, he is the person who's asked that question. So they replied, Nardo just answered my question to me privately. So that's great. I think the other question that I'm looking at the chat, and I'll request them to come on camera and ask that is in the order they were asked. Okay, Andy, would you like to ask your question? And your question was the sub problems. What specific sub problems are being mapped to qubits in the applications mentioned? And I think this is going back to your talk. Andy, are you open to come on the camera, unmute yourself, and ask the question?
Hey, yeah, I'll unmute myself. I think, I think great talk. And as you were sort of going through all of these applications, I guess I was just wondering, like, exactly what my question is, which is like, what sub problems are we actually planning on having like the quantum computer solve? So in an example of like, let's say creating this digital twin of some in silico simulation. Well, is it like are we trying to simulate what like the electron energy levels, like what, or is it like more systems based? And then even so, like another point to that would be like, how many, let's say, qubits do we even need to be able to simulate something like that? Because I think it's hard to say a timeline in terms of years, and maybe like more in terms of what the number of like, I guess, like transistors or qubits that we need to just solve that specific sub problem. Does that make sense?
Definitely a very loaded question, Andy.
Oh, it's just ready to be loaded or anything.
Yeah. So let me give you my point of view on it, right? So in silico simulation is a very hard thing to do, right? So there are a lot of people working the digital twin angle of it. All right. So digital twin meaning, I could mash up all of the data that consists of electronic medical record, genomics data, lab data, medication data, personalized data, all into a digital twin representation of me, right? And then say, okay, based on that, how do I? So a couple of things. One is on the personalized medicine standpoint, right? Personalized care perspective. How can I use classical AI and quantum AI to simulate what would be or to optimize care, right? So quantum computing is great in optimization and great in simulation because that's really what the kind of problems that they solve. So I think we can use it from those two perspectives. The first stab at this would be just a hybrid approach, meaning deal with some of the use quantum machine learning for those that are specific to digital twin that you're trying to, for example, the simulation of, let's say, what kind of drug, what kind of medications would be best for a particular person based on certain biomarkers, for example, right? So you have to look at it from a small piece first, right? And try it that way. And then as the technology improves, as the number of qubits improve, then you add on more, right? So for example, what is the balance between what's inside of a classical system being computed versus what's inside of a quantum system being computed? And it's not just the algorithm that we have to care about. We also have to care about the infrastructure side of things, right? So for example, if a quantum sensor is generating, massive amount of data and we can't even keep up with storing and transferring that information, then the infrastructure needs to get upgraded. So for example, we have things like data centers of the future based on photonics infrastructure, right? So that photonics will support quantum quite a bit. So there's a lot of work happening in there as well. So it's not just the number of qubits. It's I think a lot of it you're going to see. It's definitely a transition from hybrid, a little bit more hybrid, up to more hybrid, and then to the point where you're going to be having, hopefully a lot of it in the quantum side of things. But again, the way I'm looking at it, the world is not going to be pure quantum. You're going to have to convert your program to run in CPUs, in GPUs, and QPUs based on the algorithm that is it's purposely built for. So
Okay.
hybrid computing is what it's going to be. Qubits prediction, I mean, that is a very touchy subject. I'm not even going to touch that one.
Okay, I guess I just want to dig a little bit deeper on like the simulation side. So
Yeah.
I guess like what part of like the simulation do you see qubits sort of being better than bits? Like, is it, for example, like molecule interactions, molecule properties,
Yeah.
or yeah, I guess I was just more wondering about like the scale. Like, is it at the molecular level, atomic level, or like something a little bit more like systems based?
I would say, Andy, it's the molecular level, right? So like the protein folding related stuff, like looking for new protein, synthetic biology area would be a good one for this one. And because we're looking into synthetic medicine, and I mean, even things like synthetic food sources, right? Food as nutrition would be an interesting one in this space as well. So I think that anything that has to do with synthetic biology, protein folding, molecular chemistry, computational chemistry would be a big one as well.
Thank you, Andy, for your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, thank you. I think the next person is Mr. Piyush Agrawal. Piyush, you wanna, unmute yourself? Yeah. And
Thank you, Nardo, for your presentation. It was a great one. I'm a graduate student in mathematics working in genomics and epidemiology. And it might be my naiveness to ask this question because I don't have a good exposure to quantum technologies and quantum computing. Do you think like quantum computing is really like at that level to be used in other areas, like in other fields? Has it like progressed it uh, sufficient enough to be applicable in other areas? Like, for example, artificial intelligence, we like almost everyone can use it, has seen applications of it, and like it's very well, like easily, like graduate students, anyone, like even undergraduate students, can apply artificial intelligence algorithms for their own work, for their applications. But like I saw some framework, some simulations on the IBM
Mhm.
cloud, but I couldn't really like understand it or like see how it's really working.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, okay. So your question is quantum computing ready at this point, right? Yeah. So as an investor, I've been tracking this industry for 4 years, and I have amassed a database of 1,800 companies plus, right? So I've been pitched at so many different times, and demoed. I've looked at demos in many of these things, right? I've looked at a lot of proof of concept. So it's hard. So I have a perspective that I actually see things working, and I actually see things not working as well, right? So the one thing about a nascent area is you do need some level of hype, right? Because that's how the industry gets noticed in some sense, but it also causes problems too. But the reality is hybrid, right, is actually here, right? So the whole area of hybrid compute, of drug discovery related stuff. I mean, I was just talking to the CEO of Polaris QB in San Francisco. They're already doing that. They have they have six biotech companies clients, they have two pharma company clients, and and gaining more. I'm seeing a lot of hybrid on the healthcare side uh, in um, in image processing. I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of startups dealing with, for example, the use of quantum and AI and classical AI for design simulations for other industries. So I'm seeing that, being tested in pharma. There's a lot of stuff being tested in automotive industry. I see those. There are quantum annealing, like D-Wave, right? The quantum annealers. If you take a look at D-Wave's website, look at the number of use cases that they're already trying to do in the optimization and the simulation side of things. They have over 250 plus use cases. Some of them have been applied in NASA, here in the Port of LA, in BMW, traffic, and some traffic optimization. So we have some happening, but in terms of, is it difficult? Yes, it's still difficult to do. And just like any nascent industry, we just need to step through it, see what's really happening, and every day things innovate and things change, and it grows and it gets better.
Thank you, Piyush. We are at last 1 minute of this session. One last question for Nardo as a closing one. What are you keeping an eye for 2023, Nardo?
I want to keep an eye on this group, see if there's anyone that got inspired to do something. That's one thing. I think, to me, I am bullish on the hybrid computing approach, as well as the quantum sensors. The quantum sensors, and then the third one is because a couple of things that I want to mention. One is the newly signed bill that President Biden just did it about 3 or 4 days ago, which is the Post-Quantum Cryptography or Cybersecurity Readiness Act. Okay, so I am bullish on companies that are doing post-quantum cryptography. I'm really interested in anyone that is doing startups related to that. The other one is Biden also signed what we call the CHIPS Act of 2022. He signed it on June 28th last year. So he's allocated about $280 billion to spend in supporting this kind of stuff, right? Not just from small company startups, but also big companies. So anyone doing anything related to chips and components or integrated, electronics and photonics, I'm interested in those as well. So that's what, and then of course the quantum sensors is always a favorite.
Yeah, with that, thank you, Nardo, and thank you everyone for being part of this session. Really appreciate it. Please take time to fill in the feedback form. I put the link on the chat. We'll put the video on the YouTube channel, and I'll be putting the link in the Meetup homepage. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.